So I heard about the foundation, I guess 13 years ago when I was diagnosed with cancer, and learned a little bit about it, and sort of knew that the foundation had organized a major event here in Austin called Ride for the Roses, and was aware of it, was not a cyclist, so didn't really participate. But one day out of the blue got an email from Lance in 1997, and we connected over email, and then I did come down and experience the Ride for the Roses, and was immediately drawn to the energy and the passion of so many people that were here and that were involved.
And what was your role when you first started at the foundation and when the Live Strong wristband campaign kicked off?
So initially when I came to Austin, my role was to try and figure out how to develop programs to reach people with cancer. So the foundation had decided to move a little bit away from just funding research and get more involved in quality of life programs and survivorship programs, and so I was tasked with trying to figure out how to do that in an effective way, which was a dream opportunity. And so that's what I was doing at the time when the yellow wristband was birthed, so to speak, and it's been a wild ride since then.
And so your role within the foundation has grown since then. So started as the director of programs and now serving as president. What were the steps kind of in between there, and how did that evolve?
Sure. So I spent a number of years, probably 4 or 5 years, sort of as the director of survivorship services, aka programs. And the organization grew and grew, as you know, and obviously when the wristband phenomenon hit, the resources that were available to the organization to spend on programs increased dramatically, and so we were able to hire more staff and more colleagues. And so as things grew, my sort of career path, I guess, progressed through the organization, and ended up here where I am now. So.
When you think about the launch of the wristband campaign and the start of the campaign, what were some of the lessons learned, or as you're starting to roll out new cause marketing programs and corporate relationships, kind of what were your takeaways from that experience?
I think the one thing that I think sometimes gets lost in the story is that Live Strong itself, the brand, was created here in Austin by a firm, Milkshake Media, and it was created after doing extensive focus groups with people with cancer. So this was not a corporate brand that was just thrown on a wristband and then sold to the public. The authenticity of where it originated was from people saying, that resonates with me. And I think that's why this thing has been so successful, because it wasn't a marketing firm who just dreamt it up on their own. It was a real process working with people who were touched by the disease, and that's why I think people have really sort of been drawn to that brand and to the wristband.
How did the campaign, now 70 plus million wristbands sold, you talked a little bit about the expansion of the organization, but how has the campaign itself, the wristband, impacted Live Strong and the LAF?
Well, I think, in a number of ways. Oftentimes you hear people talk about the impact in terms of the number sold or in terms of the number of dollars raised, which are very significant, but I think they sort of pale in comparison to what it's provided to the mission of the organization. It's changed the conversation about the disease. If you would have told me when I was diagnosed that years later I would wear something on my wrist every day that outwardly showed that I was a part of this community, I would have said, no way. And so it's created conversations, it's allowed people to tell stories, which at the end of the day I think are more valuable than the dollars raised. The other thing it has done is it's given us a brand. And most nonprofits never are able to create a brand that is understood and that lives on its own. So if you think about good examples, the YMCA, Girl Scouts, United Way, American Red Cross, they have substantial brands that have been created over 50 to 100 years. Whereas in a relatively short period of time, we now have access to this brand that resonates with people all over the world. And I think that's the biggest sort of gift we've been given from this campaign.
So now with that comes a responsibility for stewardship of that brand. So
Sure.
As you approach new corporate partnership opportunities, what did you take away from the Nike relationship that you now try to bring when you sit down at the table with a Radio Shack or someone similar?
Well, I think some of it goes back to that authenticity piece. You know, how is this really furthering the mission? And because that brand was created sort of with and by survivors, I think that just makes it a lot easier to expand into other areas. So one of the first things we talk with partners about is, you know, what's the benefit to the mission? And in some cases, quite honestly, the benefit is financial investment, and that's fine. But I think we just have to be clear about, is it a financial relationship or is it a mission-focused, sort of mission-driven relationship? And so when we sit down with Oakley or with Radio Shack or any number of partners, we start the conversation with mission, and if there's a good fit between the brands and between what that entity or organization can offer our mission, then we're much more excited and much more eager to structure a partnership.
What things have you all done through use of social media and other options to capture some of those 70 million plus wristband wearers?
Sure. Well, the number one mistake we made was not capturing those individuals from the beginning. And I think about this all the time. I'm not exactly sure how we would have done it. Everybody says, well, how come you don't have 70 million people in your database? There's any number of reasons why. But in essence, I think that's the number one mistake we made. So now we're playing catch up. And in fact, somebody said this to me the other day. They said they thought that the yellow wristband was actually the first form of social media. And I thought about it for a little bit, but what they meant was that it brought people together and it connected people that never would have been connected. And that was before Facebook and MySpace and all this other stuff. And so now we're using social media to try and go back and reach those same people. So whether it's through a yellow band avatar on Twitter or on Facebook, or whether it's just giving people the opportunity to share their story and connect with one another, social media to me is the next phase of the Livestrong campaign, because it's allowed us to reach so many millions of people very cost effectively.
What recommendations, so many groups and companies have asked, how do I create a wristband, or
right.
What's the next wristband? When you talk to them or you're speaking to those audiences, what are your recommendations for them? What are the suggestions that you make?
Well, I think it's hard. I mean, clearly we've talked about this too. What's the next wristband? I think that adds a lot of pressure, a lot of stress. But I think for most groups, the advice I give is don't start the conversation around money. Don't go to a company and talk about the financial investment. Really look for what are the sort of mission-driven synergies that can benefit both your mission and organization, but also can benefit the for-profit company who you're looking to partner with. I think in this day and age, people want to do great work and they want to support great causes, and they want to do more than just writing checks. And so the way to do that is to get them vested in your mission in some form or fashion. So that's my advice for people who are looking to create the next cause marketing opportunity.
Any other comments or thoughts when you think about this idea of providing a tool basically for nonprofit executives and cause marketing professionals? Any other last words?
I guess rather than try to create the next wristband, I think if we all focus on our sort of unique assets, for whatever they may be for our organization or our mission, that's your leverage. So figure out how you can partner with somebody to leverage your assets with theirs. And so again, don't go walking in with your hand out looking for cash. Go looking for an opportunity to further your mission, and I think the money will follow.